As the US attack looms on Iran, Tehran is making sure that its top leadership remains intact in case of any eventuality. This as Trump threatened military intervention after Iran's brutal crackdown on domestic protesters, with human rights groups reporting over 5,000 deaths already. According to a report, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been moved into a special underground shelter in the capital city after senior military and security officials assessed an increased risk of a potential US attack. The report further added that the Supreme Leader's third son, Masoud Khamenei, I repeat that, Supreme Leader's third son, Masoud Khamenei, has taken over day-to-day management of the leader's office, functioning as the de facto main channel for coordination between the executive branches of the government and security forces. The Fars news agency reported that Iran's Supreme National Security Council has officially greenlit the end of more than 2 weeks of a digital blackout, during which thousands of protesters were killed. Though it also added that internet connectivity remains unstable due to technical complications. The IRGC-affiliated media quoted the CEO of Iran's telecommunications company, who suggested that problems affecting access to the internet are expected to be resolved on Sunday. The official said the efforts were underway to stabilize connectivity after intermittent disruptions. From around midday on Saturday, many users across Iran briefly regained access to the internet. However, the connection was short-lived and it was in fact unstable. The son of Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian called on Saturday for internet connectivity to be restored. Youssef Pezeshkian warned that more than 2 weeks of blackout could exacerbate anti-government sentiments. As the air grows thick with the likelihood of a conflict between the two rivals, several major airlines have begun rerouting and cancelling some flights across West Asia. The list includes KLM, Air France, Lufthansa, British Airways and Finnair. Parallel to this, human rights activist news agency said that on the 28th day of the protests, the death toll has crossed the 5,400 mark, while more than 17,000 deaths are currently under investigation. The Iranian government has put the toll at 3,117, and this includes nearly 2,400 deaths that they've labelled as martyrs. On the other hand, Iranians around the world continue to hold rallies and marches in support of protests inside the country. One such protest was organised in German capital Berlin, where around 3,000 rallied to demand the removal of Iran's clerical leadership. Protesters prominently displayed Iran's pre-Islamic revolution lion and sun flag, which was a symbol of Iran's former monarchy, while also emphasizing their opposition to being labelled supporters of the late Shah. So they're not calling for the monarchy to return when they unfurl these flags. They are simply insisting that their focus was on building a democratic future for Iran through free elections.
Most of these people here, they are younger generation who has been born after the so-called Islamic revolution. So you cannot accuse us of being Shah supporters, and we all say we don't want to go back. We are looking at future, and as Crown Prince himself said it, after the freedom of Iran, there would be a free election, and people are going to choose what kind of regime they want.
Amidst this, the US president is also planning to repatriate Iranian migrants from US despite their home country still reeling from massive protests. The National Iranian-American Council said that it had learned about Trump administration's plan to restart deportation flights to Iran. A diplomat representing Tehran's interests in the United States said that about 40 Iranians were to be deported from an airport in Phoenix, Arizona. All right, to discuss this further, James Marlowe is joining me here on the broadcast. He's a foreign and defense analyst, West Asia analyst as well. Joins us live from London. James, thanks so much for making time for us and seeing us here on the broadcast. Now, this is a question that has been raised since a number of weeks. Will the US really go in? A lot of the analysts have even said that it's more of a threat. They're not going to actually get involved because that undermines the ongoing protests, only giving more reason to the clerical government to say, see, we told you America was behind this entire protest. But now those threats of a looming attack over Iran from the US, they still lurk. What do you see it as?
Well, there's so much going on in the international media at this point. You'll be forgiven for thinking that it's all quiet between America and Iran. But as you say, that's not the case. The estimations, unofficial estimations of how the Iranian regime put down the largest uprising across Iran since they came to power in 1979, the unofficials, numbers are between 12,000 to 20,000 dead, which is a huge amount. And I've seen so much video and heard so many testimonies of people connected, also on the ground, and those people outside of Iran are running specific organizations. In terms of what is likely to happen, well, we can see that there is an American buildup. That could be for a number of reasons. But I can tell you that actually I'm in London today, as you know. I was supposed to be flying first thing this morning to Israel. And in the last week, that's actually been postponed for a couple of days for a conference. But in the last week, those people going to Israel have actually been asking me and other people what's taking place with Iran, because they are not at this point on official alerts, but there is a huge amount of speculation that Iran will attack Israel because the Americans will do something to Iran. Now, all this is going under the radar because the Israeli government is not playing this up. But of course, there's a lot of speculation. President Trump at this point needs to move very carefully on this, just like he did with Venezuela. In Venezuela, the regime is still exactly the same. They just grabbed the head of the regime, but the regime is still continuing. They would like to do something similar in Iran, but that seems to be almost impossible. You want to get rid of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who, as you say, has gone into a bunker, but that's probably more to do with the fact of his sickness. He hasn't been well for a couple of years, and I understand that he's actually deteriorating in terms of his health. So that could be just to make sure that he's getting the proper medical care. But
James,
we just don't know what is likely to happen.
Understood. James, you mentioned Israel there, and let me come to the next point here. If there is a move from the US side on Iran, that possibility of Iran taking out its own retaliation on Israel instead of going right back at US is very real. And if we go back to the war in June, the 12-day war, Israel did not come out of it without hurt. It did not come out of it without taking missiles from Iran. Iran is not a Venezuela. Iran is armed. Do you feel US would be considering this before carrying out any kind of activity in Iran? And if it does, what kind of impact will Israel be bracing for?
Well, actually, I would disagree with that. I think Israel came out of it very, very well. There's many people in Israel that was actually surprised that there was absolutely no casualties. You're right. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of missiles, of drones, of various other attacks taking place. Many of them were shot down. Most of them were shot down. I think it was more than 95%. Some of them got through. They caused some damage. But what Israel did, it managed within the first 4 or 5 hours to completely take out the Iranian air defense systems, which nobody actually imagined would actually take place. And then they pinpoint specific targets from the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, their main generals, specific politicians. They took out Iranian nuclear scientists, and they knew exactly where to go. Clearly, they had people on the ground giving them the intelligence, but a lot of people were very surprised. The attack from Iran against Israel was expected to be much, much worse. So Iran right now is hurting. They're weak at this point. Hezbollah, most of its leadership has been taken out. Of course, they're still in power. Hamas, the same thing can be said over there. They're still running parts of Gaza, but the main leadership has been taken out. The Houthis as well, their leadership has been taken out, including the prime minister. So these proxies that Iran have actually been funding and training for many, many years are no longer there to protect the outside of Iran. Understood. Iran is very weak at this point, and I'm surprised that they are barking very, very loudly as a dog, because the Americans and the Israelis together could finish them off. I would just add one more thing, and that is just that the problem is if that the Iranian regime does fall, does Iran fall into a country of chaos, or will the son of the Shah come back and manage to actually control the crisis and then hold elections within 12 months after that? That's the big question, because we don't want Iran to fall into another Iraq or Libya or Syria.
I hear your point, James, and just let me allow me to just clarify to our viewers. You mentioned there were no casualties in Israel during the 12-day war. Israel had in fact acknowledged 28 deaths and over 3,000 wounded and injuries. Of course, those are numbers which came out from Israel, and at the same time, Iran did not go down without a fight back then. Here they're saying we're still ready, we're better prepared. We leave it for now. No point speculating.
I'm not sure that's true. I don't have those
it's
numbers.
Times of Israel. I have the report in front of me, but you can go and check it out too. Maybe there's a discussion for another time. You're heading to Israel. You can talk to them directly, but we leave it there. This is something we would not like to speculate more on, but things are tense in Iran. That's something we both agree upon. We let it go for now. That was James Marlowe joining us from London. Thanks so much, James.
Thank you.